Hey yo guys, what's up and welcome back to Toe Tags and Metal Reviews, and today we're going to have first impressions of the new albums from As I Lay Dying and Thy Catafalque. So new release day, only a couple of albums we're checking out today. And I'm just going to pass the floor to TV Fish because I'm curious to know what you think of these two albums.
Alright, well, let's start off with the first album I checked out today, which is Through Storms Ahead by As I Lay Dying,
Okay.
or As He Lays Dying, considering there's now only one man in this band.
For now, yeah.
So, you know, we reacted to at least like 3 of the singles, might even have been 4.
Yeah.
Many, and we liked basically all of them. Like, we were excited, we were thinking, wow, like these guys are really invoking the old school spirit of metalcore that they had because these are one of the old school giants of the genre.
Yeah.
So that was in my head. I was thinking to myself, like, okay, these singles were strong. Is the rest of the album gonna hold up? Is it a case of, well, the singles were good and there's a reason they were singles and the rest of the album maybe not as much? But I feel like overall it was pretty solid the whole way through. And I think, well, one thing I'll mention, there's this intro track. It very oddly cuts when it transitions to A Broken Reflection, which is the next track. It just kind of I don't know, it just seems like an editing error. Obviously, it was probably intentional, but sounded a little weird. But Burden, which is one of the singles that we checked out, still great. I feel like I'm listening to this like, yeah, this is. I feel like metalcore has changed a lot over the years. This is kind of like the original spirit. Like, I feel like there's 2 kind of paths that the old school sound of metalcore took. There's the melodic route, which is something like this, or something like Killswitch Engage. And then there's the more syncopated, kind of heavier route, bands like Unearth and August Burns Red. I feel like those are kind of like the 2 paths that these bands were walking back when the genre was developing.
Yep.
And I feel like a song like Burden kind of brings you back to like the old school sound. This is what metal, this was the roots of it, right? And I like that. It you know, it goes hard and then they throw out a really melodic anthem for you, and it's really, really nice, and I like that. Few other songs that stood out to me. Title track has this really rad riff. They go into the bridge section, and I wish they just vamped on it a little more before doing something else.
The exact part you're talking about is at 240.
Yeah,
they kick into this groove for like a couple bars, and it feels like just ride this for a while, and then they don't. They switch it up so fast.
Yeah,
and I was like, no, that's when it got good.
We both had that exact.
Yeah, I know exactly what he's talking about.
Yep, yeah.
That's track 6. Yeah, the title track. Yeah.
I wish they just vamped on that more, because
Yeah.
I'm like, this riff is nasty. Just ride with it. Ah, they changed.
Yeah. Boo.
Damn. Anyway, one of the biggest things that really was shining on this album were the guitars. I think riffs were really good, solos were good. I feel like the band that was there was a strong band.
Yeah.
I feel like the band that was put together for this album was a really good band, and they did some really cool stuff. Not a thing now, but still, I think they did a really good job with that. And I think the guitars were really the main thing that were standing out to me with this record, and I like that a lot. So I feel like this album especially holds true to what makes the genre great, better than the last one. I found that overall, based on my memory of Shaped by Fire versus my first impression of Through Storms Ahead, I feel like this one just overall feels like a stronger album. Like, it was solid. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I had a bit of the opposite opinion there. I feel like the last album was probably a little bit stronger than this one on a first impression. But I do agree with a lot of things you said, especially that the guitars are the spotlight and kind of the highlight of this album. They kind of always have been for me in this band. This has always been a kind of a guitar band for me. Great riffs, great solos, a lot of really cool stuff going on. Really kind of evokes that metalcore sound and kind of is the signature style of that metalcore sound with these guitar riffs and even the tone and everything behind it. And this album has all that in there. So if that's what you're looking for, you're going to find it here. So yeah, I'm enjoying it when I'm listening to it because these riffs to me are great. Just really cool stuff. Where it starts to break apart for me is when the clean singing comes in. If you've watched this channel for any length of time, you'll know that I'm a mixed bag when it comes to clean singing. Sometimes I love it, sometimes I'm like, oh, and it's just a little bit salty for me. When it comes to As I Lay Dying, this is not the same clean singer that they've had always. They've switched members and blah, blah, blah. I don't like this clean singer. I don't like his voice. It doesn't really sound that good to me. Others will probably love it, and that's fine. It breaks the immersion for me, right? When I'm into the song and I'm enjoying it, and then that starts, I'm like, In the past, I've learned to get over things like that. Like I've learned if I listen to it a few times and kind of get used to it and get kind of, I can get over it. But as a first impression, it's something that was really kind of, I was hung up on it. which is not a great thing. So a couple songs that stood out to me. You already mentioned Through Storms Ahead, which I thought was a good song, but that one section, yeah, we both wish it just went on a little longer because it was dope. A Broken Reflection, which is song number 2, I also thought was a great song, but the cleans were like, whatever. Strength to Survive, track number 8. I thought this one really stood out rhythmically. I thought it had some of the best riffs on the album, but overall it still kind of felt like a meh kind of song, and that's my overall opinion of the album. Is it's got some strong elements to it, but overall still comes across it's just kind of like, here it is, there it goes.
What kind of makes it that way? Like, I know you had the criticism of the clean singing, but like, what could they have done different with this album to make it more to your liking?
I don't know if they could have done anything. They're doing what they do best, and maybe this album just wasn't it for me. I think the last album appealed to me a little bit more for whatever reason. Maybe the riffs were a little juicier in that album. Maybe there was a little less clean singing. I'm not exactly sure. But it can also be a mood thing. You know, mood's very important when it comes to judging and reviewing albums, which is why we listen to albums so much when we're reviewing them. So maybe I just wasn't into that metalcore today. You know what I mean? I felt like I was excited for it. We listened to the singles. By the way, speaking of the singles, we liked all the singles. We were hyped for this album based on the singles. Yeah. I didn't feel like they shined or shone on this album when I was listening to it, you know, in full. Which kind of tells me that this is one of those albums, and I'll use a phrase that you've used before, in a vacuum, these songs all sound fantastic, right? You listen to them on their own, you're like, wow, that was really good. But when you listen to them as a package, and you have a 40-plus minute long album, they all kind of just share the same energy and share the same vibe, minus a few little nuances here and there. But it takes the sparkle off the singles when they all kind of just have the same element of whatever. So I was a little let down, but it doesn't mean that it's not a good album, and it doesn't mean that I won't listen to it again and give it more chances in the future. But my first impressions wasn't the greatest. I think the riffs were the best, and yeah, let's just leave it at that.
All right, fair enough. Who's gonna try to say this album title?
I'm not. Let's just call it 12.
I mean, yeah, 12.
Because it's Roman numerals 12, and then it's a bunch of, I assume, Hungarian.
A phrase that we don't even want to try. But I did, Google Translate told me that it translates to Beautiful Dreams Come Next.
Let's call it that.
So,
Dreams Come Next.
by thy Catafalque. We've checked this band out a few times on the channel. I think we've reviewed them at least once.
Yeah.
I don't think we reviewed them more than once, but we have checked them out. We've covered in first impressions.
Yeah.
Pretty cool, interesting, I guess, avant-garde band. There's a lot going on, a lot of different sounds. Odds are you'll probably hear something that you like within the realms of this band's overall sound.
Yeah.
Something somewhere. Now, this album I found had a lot of cool creative stuff, and I feel like that's just kind of the hallmark of this band. But I did kind of find that it was a bit of a mix of everything we've kind of seen throughout, you know, checking this band out since 2020 is when we first started checking them out. And I feel like there was, you know, the clean stuff, the hard riffs, some jammy parts, harsh stuff that hits like a truck, stuff that, you know, just gives you this big grand atmosphere. Like, there's a lot going on in this album, a lot of moving parts. And, you know, you look at the second track, Mindanevo. I really like that one. Feels like it hits like a truck. There's a shot they do where everything just completely stops for like a beat, like a quarter note even, probably. Which I thought was pretty cool. It caught me by surprise. I don't know about you, but for me, listening to that song sounded like Behemoth to me. With that blast beat style and the tremolo going on.
And they got the tremolo, the death growls. Yeah,
just listening to it, I'm like, I feel like I could hear Behemoth doing something like this.
Yeah, I can hear that too. Even vocally, accent wise, is probably, you know, pretty close.
Yeah, like comparable to Nergal. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool. Third track also was hard, and I feel like the harsh vocal style was completely different, which, you know, plays to the variety on this album. So I found that, you know, a lot of tracks would go super hard and then have a quiet section. And even though I noticed that on multiple tracks, it didn't feel repetitive because each time they were doing something different with it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they have guest vocals on like a lot of their songs.
Which would make sense, considering how much you hear.
Yeah.
But for example, like there's a saxophone solo in the fifth track, which is super awesome. There's this entire electronic section in the seventh track. Like, there's a bunch of different, like, oh wow, this one does that, this song does that. Lots of different stuff going on. I thought it was really cool and creative.
Yeah, you know what? This band is just overall cool and creative,
Yeah.
to be honest. And I'm a fan of the band, but the thing with me, though, is that some of it strikes me, some of it connects with me, and some of it doesn't. The last album that came out really did nothing for me. The albums before that, Vadak and I don't know if it's Niav or Naive or whatever.
Naive, I think.
Yeah, both those albums are killer. They got songs on there that just make me add it to the playlist immediately, and I can listen to it and go, holy fuck, this is like peak creativity of music writing. Awesome, awesome stuff. This album to me is more like the last album, which didn't really connect with me in many ways. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on here. This is a very busy band. They throw a lot of ideas out there and they execute them very well. But they don't, I guess, hit the right chords with me. And there's stuff like you mentioned, Mindanao, track number 2. That was a standout track for me as well because of how heavy it gets. You got blast beats in there. You don't really hear that too much from this band. That level of aggression with the growls and stuff like that. So it's cool that they bring stuff like that out. But hearing that at track 2 gave me a little taste going, oh, is this going to be like a really heavy, like death metal-esque type of avant-garde album?
Yeah.
And it's not. It's like a little tease and that's it. And I was like, it's not fair to really expect that from them because that's not what they are. But it felt like I was going to get that, and I would have probably enjoyed that a little more.
I mean, it's not the only song where that kind of thing happens.
It's not. They do all kinds of stuff all the time, but it just felt a little juicier there. Track number 3 I thought was really good as well. Just cool sections. Track number 4, there was like a stretch, maybe the first half of the album. There's stuff in each song where I was like, that's pretty cool. But again, the song's like 6 minutes long, and I'm like, okay, I like a section that's maybe 30 seconds long, and it's more than halfway through the song. Like, there just wasn't enough in each song to justify me, like, really enjoying any song. And then I went back just because I was curious. Again, is it a mood thing? Maybe I'm just not into it right now. Let's go put on Vadak and see how I feel. Nope. Banger, 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 banger. Like, I'm like, yeah, it could be me, but I feel like their creativity is still up here, but their songwritings have been on a downward slope for the last 2 albums, which is unfortunate. But again, just like the As I Lay Dying album, Two Storms Ahead, I will listen to this again in the future and redevelop an opinion on it. Because right now, I feel like I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it as much as I was hoping I would love it. I was hoping to listen to like Catafalque and go playlist, which is what happened with those other 2 albums. And that didn't happen. So could be a me thing. Maybe I just wasn't in the mood today. But yeah, my overall opinion is that it was just fine. But you guys should still check it out. Check out both albums and let us know in the comments down below what you think of them. But that's it for today. We're only doing the 2 albums. We're not reviewing any this week because we didn't really have super strong opinions on either. And we got a lot of work to do as far as our year-end video. We got to start doing re-listens of albums throughout the year and all that fun stuff. So we're going to do that. And you guys can leave your thoughts down below. Subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. I'm Vile Self.
I'm TV Fit.
I'll see you guys in the next one.